Hello, podcast listener. Let me tell you, if you are not eating breakfast while you are listening to this episode, you might want to wait because I complain about breakfast joints right off the bat, and I get a lot of stuff off my chest in this episode. I actually feel the best I've ever felt after JJ Meets World because I've been able to vent for this entire time. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of JJ Bitches About the World. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called J.J. Meets World.
This episode of JJ Meets World needs to open with a disclosure, and that disclosure is I worked as a server for 45 minutes one day at Fargo Billiards and Gastropub. I did some marketing stuff for them, and they were in a real pinch, and they said, could you help us run food? And I did. I helped them through this thing where I walked out and be like, who's got the Caesar salad and who's got a chicken parm?
You would be really good at that.
Nope, I was not.
Really?
I was not. I think I've got the personality for it.
That's what I was going for, yeah.
But I do not have the everything else that you need. And I also get frustrated with people when they're like, all right, even at my own table, when I'm not the server, but I'm with a group of people and someone says, could I get a side of ranch? They bring a side of ranch and someone else says, oh, could I get a ranch too? We need to be more organized, people. I am so angry right now. I've been trying to bury the lead with Tucker before we start this recording. So I've been trying to think of a clever way of describing the restaurant we were just at, and I'm going to call it this. It's the saute skillet. So you know if you know. I'm going to tell you why this place will not be receiving any of my dollars anymore.
Got it. All right.
So we just had an experience. We went there for breakfast because it's a great little breakfast joint. And you get what you order. It is consistent.
It's been a standard in this. How long has it been around for?
Oh, decades.
Yeah.
And they just moved into a new location because some company bought out the strip mall that they were in. Their new location is not well thought out. It is too packed with chairs. It's got a bad feng shui. And this is my experience trying to give them money when we left. I get over there. Now, their salad bar now intrudes on their entrance. There's a lot of other people who are there.
Bad place for the salad bar to be.
Right. And their manager, and I'm going to call him out by name, Pat, was chatting up with a guy rather than seating tables. There were open tables, people waiting to get their name on a list, and there was one woman working the till. So there's a gentleman paying, and then another gentleman in line, and then I stood behind that second gentleman, giving the appropriate amount of space in this COVID world that we live in. I'm waiting to get up there to pay, not trying to crowd that area because there's people who are trying to get in and put their name in. And I think, like, you know what? I'll have 3 steps between me and the till so that these people who are passing by who also need to use the restroom, because this is the direct path to the restroom, are getting by. A lot of elderly folks at the sauteing skillet. And then an old guy walks up, looks at me, looks at my ticket, and then puts his on the table with the credit card on it, so that he is now claimed next in line. And I'm not someone who says like, oh, you know, older folks just do what they want. But this guy does what he wants. Yeah. This dude isn't putting his blinker on when he's, you know, in traffic. This guy is just a full on dick. So this guy gets up there to pay, and then he waves behind him, and 2 other people come up and are paying their bills with this guy. And then
they're budgers.
They're not only budgers, but they decide that they've got the authority to establish a new line. Now, there's another guy now waiting behind me in the established line, But they decide they're going to have a new line, but their new line actually goes and snakes around tables. So there's somebody there waiting with their credit card and their wallet while someone's trying to eat their flapjacks.
Yep.
We are in the correct area where you need to line up to queue up to be able to do this. So I said, excuse me, the line's over here. And then the younger guy goes, yeah, guy. Yeah, guy? Are you kidding me? Yeah, guy. So I get out of my line and I now walk behind 7 other people.
Got it.
In line beta.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in this line. Pat finally finishes his conversation, but walks the guy over and lets him pay ahead of all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another elderly gentleman gets Pat's attention and he says, I've reserved the meeting room for today. And Pat goes, nope, no, you didn't. And the guy goes, yeah, we get together like the first, the Saturday or whatever or the last Saturday of every month. And, we reserve the Saturday room. He's like, I only have one meeting room. I don't reserve it on Saturdays. And the guy said, well, I called in and I made the reservation like at the beginning of August. He goes, you're going to have to tell me who you talked to then. Because you didn't talk to me.
Ugh.
And he is being so prickly with this guy that I kind of want to like lean in and be like, hey, let me tell you where you can take your business elsewhere, because I know plenty of places that would roll out the red carpet to be able to get customers in right now.
Yeah.
And so Pat doesn't do anything. He doesn't say like, well, how many are in your party? Can I help you? He goes, well, you just have to figure something out, and walks away from this dude. So now this dude goes and talks to his group of other people, other elderly people who are gathering in the like breezeway. And there's a woman, she goes, but you called and I heard you talk to this person. He's like, yeah. And like, do you remember what that woman's name was? And she says, no, why would I remember that? Plus, while I'm there, I hear people answering the phone. They're like, frying pan.
Yep.
I mean, saute skillet. And so it's not like they're identifying themselves either.
Yeah.
And I will say this, our service had personality, but not great follow through. Tucker ordered a cup of coffee. This is a breakfast specific place. This is 8:00 in the morning on a Saturday. There were maybe 8 other tables when we arrived, and it took you like 20 minutes to get coffee.
Yeah, it took a bit.
And then when you got, did you notice that everything like, it's like she dropped it like 3 inches and like clunk, 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 clunk. And I can way look past that for the server.
Right.
But by the time I got to the front of this till, I was so frustrated. And this woman never asked, how was the food? Like, thanks for coming in. We appreciate you stopping by. There was no smile. She took the ticket and then she told me that I can't leave it in water because apparently the receipt had gotten wet on the table. And now it wasn't scanning right for her.
Be like, I didn't leave it in water.
Yeah, I'm like, I did not place that ticket on the table. I simply lifted it up. Now, if anything, it's probably crumpled from my utter frustration where I'm trying to strangle the receipt rather than strangle another human being.
Yeah.
And so here's what I walked away with. Number one, haven't we just been spending the last 18 months talking about how we're all in this together? And yet you're going to usurp me in the line and create a new line because you don't want to have to wait for one more person. I had my credit card out. I was efficient. I wasn't like some of those people who are like, oh, hold on. Like, we're going to split this. Hold on. Darlene, come, grab Ted's wallet. I was ready to go. I was efficient. And yet you still did this to me. And then the guy who was in line behind me, this is what pisses me off the most. He budged his way to the front of the new line. And when some guy said like, oh, I was waiting, he goes like, I was actually the next in line here. And I'm like, no, you weren't.
Yeah.
No, you weren't. This is where your chance to reach in and pull me out of the water with you. And you just let it go. Yeah. By the way, this guy abandoned his mother in a random chair in the middle of all of these people standing and like holding these like boxes to go. And I was like, why not don't leave your mom just in the middle. It'd be like saying like, listen, mom, you sit in the middle of this line at Target. Right. Okay. It was horribly thought out. And given, I know that this place just reopened a month ago, but still. It's
no question an inferior version of the saute skillet.
Correct.
No question. I mean, I've been there now 3 times to have breakfast. And yet each time it just wasn't that great of an experience. But also, Yeah, I myself am gonna give it a little more time to try to like, because there's clearly still construction going on outside, so they don't even have their full parking lot yet. But the parking lot they have right now sucks right now because
one entrance, you got to reverse the whole way out.
Yeah, and the bathrooms are half the size of the old bathrooms, and I really think putting the salad bar right outside the bathrooms and the entranceway, bad idea because that's where everyone's walking.
They've got a muffin and like cake. Like one of those display cases, like a kind of like a half dome display case.
Yeah.
When I came in, that thing was wide open and they were reloading the muffins. Now, whoever was supposed to be loading the muffins had stopped their job and walked away. Meanwhile, there's another guy sitting right next to the case going, and I'm like, okay, so would you like your bran muffin with a side of spittle? I was so unimpressed today. And what bothers me the most is that manager has been such a douchebag to me, especially. I feel like he picks me out of a crowd.
Is he an owner of the
I don't know.
Because
I would like to find out.
He conducts himself as though he is, as though like they're never going to fire me,
Yeah.
So it makes me feel like at the very least he's like, no, I whatever, Yeah, that's really interesting. What was going on?
I've never walked in there where he's not there. Does he live there? Does he have two twin brothers?
I think that's just his. That's the thing. Is like, yep. And then I sleep on top of the oven at night.
Yeah, right. I dress up as a cat to make sure mice don't get in. I'm doing what I can to make sure the place is safe.
The Saute Skillet has always been that part of the town where the food is fine. The food is just fine, but it's always open and it's open late night. And if you're anything from like a college kid to someone who is just at the bars to someone who just has a nightlife, maybe you work the late shift and so you get off at 2 a.m. and you want to go get some food or something, it was always a really fun place to go late at night with friends to just kind of hang out, right? And there was always a ton of space. And the food was like just what you needed it to be. It was never like amazing, but
right.
It wasn't terrible either. It was like, yeah, it's fine. It's diner food.
My egg was underdone today and very runny, like clear liquid runny.
That was the old Saute Skillet. This is the new Saute Skillet. We're going to have to see what happens. Otherwise, okay, so if you're not going to go to the Saute Skillet, where would you go to replace the Saute Skillet in town?
That's a great question because, like, I do not care to dine at Merkin's, nor would I want to go to Menny's.
I like your why don't you just call it the Ryan Bran?
Yeah, right. That's a good question. Like, a good breakfast place to me is hard to find in our neck of the woods. When I lived in Chicago, my God, there was a place called Over Easy that had one of the best, like a little kind of greasy spoon, great breakfast. There was a place called, I think it was called Fresh because it was like fresh squeezed, but they specialized in, great breakfast, but then they had pancake flights where you'd get like 3 different types of pancakes. They also made a thing called Frushi, which is they took rice and cooked it in fruit juices and then cut up pieces of fruit like fancily. And so it looked like a piece of sushi, but it actually had like kiwi or watermelon in it.
Interesting.
It was Orange. I'm sorry. That's the name of the place. Orange. That's where Fresh Squeeze. Orange. Orange is the name of the place. And they had 2 locations. Amazing stuff. And they had like 6 different kinds of syrup that you could have, right? There are so many places that specialize in breakfast. There's a spot in the Twin Cities in Eden Prairie that I loved that the one whole wall is Easy Bake ovens from over the years.
Nice.
Like great decoration.
There's a place in the Twin Cities, my favorite breakfast place that was introduced to me when I was dating the photographer. And it's called the Seward Cafe. So it's in that neighborhood. And it's like a hippy dippy joint, right? Like they're like, oh, we grow our own vegetables and it's all organic, but the food is fantastic. Best hash browns you will ever have.
See?
Period.
I love that.
Yeah. Fantastic hash browns. Awesome coffee. Like really, really, like say what you want about the hippies. They know how to make breakfast food.
Yeah.
They really know how to make breakfast food.
And to me, breakfast food should be one of the easiest foods because
fry
most
some
of
eggs.
the time, if you've got a griddle, you can make everything you need for breakfast. It's not like you're doing multiple things. Most baked goods are done the night before. And
it still tastes good at any time of day. So like for me, I'll eat breakfast food for dinner if it's an option. But yeah, I'm kind of feeling just like some protein and some starch. I'm gonna get some hash browns and some eggs and some bacon. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yep. And even like the way someplace does their bacon, like So I don't know how familiar you are with cooking on a griddle, but usually bacon is cooked and you put a heavy bacon press on it.
Right.
And that's what keeps it flat.
Right.
There are places I know that don't keep it flat. For example, I was a little disappointed in the bacon that we had today. It seemed very small.
Right.
For considering to be like the side of bacon on our signature breakfast.
Yeah, like Menny's has the worst bacon because it's like a bookmark basically. It's just like it's like a pork shaving is really what it is.
Menny's has the most effed up menu ever. Have you ever looked at the caricatures that are inside their menu?
I can't recall them.
Okay, so it's like a piece of bacon with eyes and like little hands and arms, and then there's like a picture of like an egg, like as well, like a little anthropomorphic egg. And I'm like, it's like, come and eat us. Look, this is my cousin you're buying.
Is Morol's still 24?
I don't believe it
They're
is.
not 24. Okay,
Maybe it is.
That would be like a maybe because like that when I was younger, we'd go get like shakes on Shaky Mondays or whatever at night, and they've got really good breakfast food. Like I really like their breakfast food a lot.
My problem is that there used to be like 3 of those in town, and now it's 1, and it's in a part of town that I don't like to go to anymore.
Right. But it's the nice one because there's another one somewhere else in North Dakota. It doesn't look. It just looks like
the one in Bismarck.
It looks like a Marion Man.
Really?
It looks like a saute skillet. It has none of the
flair
the flair of the one that this one has.
I feel like for a while Kroll's were pretty, because there's one on the way to the cities. I know because I had to stop at it because a girl that I was going to the cities with was breaking up with her boyfriend and she needed to cry and she didn't want to cry in the car, so we pulled over. I let her stay in the car and have this argument, and then I went in and had like some Nefla soup and a piece of pie.
I thought you were going to be like, I can't cry in this car. Can we go to like a Kroll's or something so I can cry there?
Morol's.
You already said it.
Let's keep this up. Oh, yeah, I did, didn't I?
did.
Well,
but we're saying nice things about them, though.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why I don't go to that. Like, they're not my first thought for breakfast because I think of them more as a late night joint. Right. So I think if this town really got its act together. Now, I will say this. There is one breakfast place that I absolutely love because they concentrate on breakfast. They do it well. They seat you fast. They're good to go. And
McDonald's.
That is MCJ's Diner. I don't want to say MJ's Diner because that's entirely different, but MCJ's Diner on South University. And I especially love it because it used to be a Pizza Hut when I was a kid. And so I remember going there and trading in my Book It program for a free personal pizza. And now it's a great breakfast place. And this is the thing that I like the most about them. They're like, okay, who are the people who live in this area? Mostly like Scandinavian. There's German influence. So we're going to do an egg bake. Every day there's egg bake. Plus you can get standard breakfast stuff. Their pancakes are enormous. It's great. I love it. Mastering that. You know who else used to have a great breakfast? The Barnstormer, which was the restaurant at the airport.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to remember going there. Now, the downside was you had to pay to park. You had to pay $1.75 before you could go eat up there.
Right.
But they had a great
breakfast sandwiches there that I would hit if I was going on a trip somewhere and I wanted to get something nice and hearty inside.
Let me tell you a Barnstormer story. Okay.
Please do.
So when I worked at the Take Two video, the Make Move video on 45th Street in Fargo, a guy came in and he said, "Hey, do you guys transfer VHS to DVD?" And I said, "Well, yeah, we offer that service." He's like, "How much is it?" And I'm like, $20. And he goes, "Oh, okay. I'm going to bring in some tapes." And so I was like, "Okay." And I said, "We can't transfer
like Hollywood tapes."
Yeah, like we can, like home videos is what we're doing. He was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I mean, this wasn't like something that was released in theaters." And I'm like, "Well, I can't, like we couldn't do like TV, stuff like that." He's like, "Oh,
I filmed this myself."
It was some disturbing content.
What was it?
If I'm going to tell you the truth. So it was somebody's like movie that they made themselves that was sort of adult in nature.
Okay.
But it was like clearly living out some kind of weird fantasy.
Got it.
And it was the type of thing where like halfway through it, I remember when my manager's coming out and being like, "We're going to have to tell this guy we can't do this. We can't fulfill this," because it had to air in real time as it was digitizing in his office. And so we call this guy and I'm like, "Listen, we can't do it, but listen, I know another entity in town that could do this for you. You know, like we're a video rental store, man." You know, like,
I didn't know you guys had that that thing.
It was one of the last ditch efforts to
Sure.
like be like, please.
Right.
Like when we tried to rival Netflix by giving you a self-paid envelope so you could mail your DVD back to us, but then like, what day is it due? I don't know.
Yeah.
So this guy comes in later and he goes, hey, that place worked out really well. They were able to digitize it. Thank you so much. And I'm like, you're very welcome. He's like, you ever want to make some money? And when someone asks like you that, I don't know this guy's name, right? Like I'd have to look up his slip to find out. I'm like, hey guy, I'm good. Thank you very much. So again, this is a story about the Barnstormer. So maybe like 3 weeks after that, I'm flying out someplace and it's a morning flight. So I built in time so I could go and eat at breakfast at the Barnstormer. And so I'm in there and this guy walks by and he goes, hey, take two. What's up? And I'm like, not much stuff with you. He's like, oh, I'm the cook here. And I'm like, cool. He's like, hey, I'm going to make your breakfast extra special. And I was like, God damn it. You don't want to hear something. Someone's going to make your breakfast extra special.
From a pornographer or something. Whatever the fuck he is.
So what was amazing though is like when my breakfast came out, it looked like a farmer's breakfast, like something you see out of like, you know, like in the movie Pleasantville when they make fun of Joan Allen for like this huge breakfast she makes. The biggest pancakes you've ever seen, loaded with blueberries, like 5 enormous strips of extra crispy bacon, the hash browns done on both sides.
Nice.
I mean, it was amazing.
Nice.
And so he came out and like, he's like, hey, I just wanted to take care of you the same way you took care of me. And I appreciate it. And like, he goes, this stuff's really good. If you ever need anything, you let me know. And I'm like, this bacon's great. And so then he came out with a Ziploc bag with like 10 more strips of bacon. He goes, you take this on your flight with you. You enjoy a little snack if you need it.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I'm like, thanks, man. That's awesome. And so I get on my plane and the other people who are joining me on this flight are there. And at one point I'm like, I'm a little peckish. And so I pull out this bag of bacon and they're all looking at me and they're like, well, what the hell is that? And I'm like, well, I got a treat from this guy who was making some inappropriate videos, but I found a way for him to transfer it onto DVD. By the way, I should also mention, like, it's not like he had a fresh VHS. This thing was old, grody, and you could tell he was a heavy smoker because, like, the tape itself had kind of, like, degraded in that way, you know, where it gets covered in the tar.
Yeah.
And so, you know, a lot of, like...
I used to offer digitization as just a service that I would do, and I was always worried that I was going to get something too gnarly that I would have to like call the cops about or something like that.
Yeah.
But luckily I didn't keep going down that road because that's a road to no money right there.
Well, because the time it takes for it. So no matter what, when you're dealing with a VHS tape, your real timing
right.
to get most of it. Even if you set it up and you're going in the background, you still have to go and grab a tape. And
I invested in about $500 worth of equipment too because I found that because the first thing I tried was just one of those decks that just does VHS to DVD, but those are notorious for getting audio out of sync and all these other issues. It's just usually not that good of a conversion. Did a bunch of research, found out all the things I was going to need to be able to do like really high quality transfers, and then took on like 2 clients, and yeah, they had like 30 tapes each, and so it just was like, God, this is so much.
It's also incredibly rare you find someone who's filled a whole VHS tape.
Right.
It's usually like, I got 20 minutes on this. I got 45 on this.
So you charge them per tape. You don't charge them per minute. But then also long term, though, I mean, there are only so many VHS tapes out there in the world, and they're all slowly being destroyed. So anyone who thinks, well, long term business is it's a bad idea. It's just a terrible idea. And there were already companies out there doing it at like mass scale. So I just realized this was really silly. But because I love video and I love archiving, I still use the gear from time to time, or I'll help friends out, just do it for beer or something like that.
And you know, there's local companies that do it. My sister-in-law does it, and I think like that to me is one of the things that she does to keep clients engaged.
Yep.
And they all like, she goes like, someone will bring me 40 VHS tapes, and then a week later they'll be like, oh, I found like 6 more.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean you found 6 more? Like,
you're
like the wobbly coffee table. Oh yeah, I forgot Kelsey's birthday.
Melips Multimedia is a great company, and you should reach out to them.
There's also, I think it's Kodak that started doing it. So they'll ship you a box, and whatever media you can fit in this box, they will digitize. So if you've got mini DV tapes, 8mm, VHS, even DVD for that matter, anything you can fit in that box, they will digitize for you for one flat fee.
Right. Which
is a great idea. It reminds me of, so when I started going to film school, the places that developed 16mm film, 8mm film, especially if it's going to have the magnetic audio strip, were few and far between.
Yeah.
You know, back in the day, there were places in Fargo you could bring it to, and they had like the exposure process. Nowadays, there's like a handful, and you're normally shipping it out somewhere across the country.
Right.
And then they'll send you back, you know, the developed film and a digital version of it, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
In fact, they're probably just emailing you the digital version at this point.
Right.
But to me, it's like, okay, so who's going to stick it out the longest, right? Like, who's going to be the one to say, like, listen, we just have to wait while these other ones die to survive. And maybe that's what animal life was like during the age of the dinosaur, right? So, you know, like the possum is like, I just gotta last longer than the Stegosaurus.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I will claim all the sweet, sweet berries that you can find. I'm starting to get over it now that I've had a chance to vent, but I'm still pretty peeved about my experience this morning. And you know what? It cost $30 before tip, $30. And to have that kind of thing, I'm like, you're not going to get my $30 again. And they go, big whoop, we don't need your $30.
Right.
I've probably eaten there 50, 60 times in my lifetime.
At least, more than that.
Right?
More than that.
And so that money's gone now.
Yeah. Their seating is really uncomfortable too. The new seating is really uncomfy.
It's clearly thought out by this. A guy who says, I know what restaurants need. I know what people want at a restaurant.
Right.
I got this shitty goatee now.
I was really excited too when I was hearing that they're building this new building and the frying pan would be in it and they'd have all these apartments above it. And at one point I thought, well, that'd be a great place to live. But of course, those apartments cost an arm and a leg. They already had a waiting list, you know, way out the door. That's one of the weird things going on here in town right now. I can't tell if we're in an apartment shortage or the opposite of that, because I feel like I'm always hearing that apartments are just getting scooped up right away. But I think it's the more expensive ones that are getting scooped up right away. Where it's like where I live, where it's really cheap, there's always vacancies all the time. So I don't quite know if we have too many apartments in this town, in this community, obviously because it's like 4 towns that create one giant community or not.
Well, I think part of it is that one is a downtown, right?
Right.
And everyone associates downtown with trendiness.
Right. And it's going to be, you know, you're going to pay a premium for living downtown. There's no way around it. If you're downtown, you're paying a premium.
For example, when I was looking at places in Chicago, we hired a service that essentially takes you to open apartments. And so you can see like 30 of them in a day. Right. And when I would go look at an apartment in a more historic building that hadn't been kept up, those were always cheaper, right?
Right.
I remember going into one and I saw the biggest bone I've ever seen in my life. Like, I swear to God, it was a dinosaur bone, but it was for their dog. It was like maybe it was like a cow's femur. It was the biggest dang bone I've ever seen. In my entire life.
These like a lot of the apartments now, they've got like full workout rooms in them. They've got a dog groomer in them.
Yeah.
Some of the ones downtown here, I won't name the company, but I'm not even going to pretend to make a fake version of the company. But those are also like 1 bedrooms that are going to go for like $1,500 at a minimum per month, which is double what I'm paying right now for my 1 bedroom out in Mest Margot.
That sounds like a good character name.
You know, if we're gonna bitch about stuff, I'm gonna bitch about where I'm living out in West Fargo right now, and I'm not even gonna. It's the lights. I fucking hate the lights. I hate the lights.
Now, be specific. So the lights are not an audio or a visual thing. It's not like there's a bunch of like floating lights that Tucker sees that nobody else does.
The lights.
It is the name of a complex.
It's the name of a venue. It's like a combination of what apartments and offices and retail, and then also they've got this outdoor concert area.
And before Tucker gets too deep into this,
please, yes, set the context here.
It is exactly what our community needs right now.
Right.
If I'm gonna lay it out there, because it is a mixed use building. It is very much in step with what larger communities are, where it's like live, work, and play, right? So it's got all of those things mixed into one. That being said, I totally understand your frustration.
Yeah. Try living down the street from it, because it's not in an area that was zoned for concerts, right? That was apartment buildings were there well before they decided to put a concert venue there. And the building that I'm in, I mean, good luck not hearing that music. I was listening to bullshit honky tonk music at 11:30 at night coming from there. 11:30 at F me in the A night, right? And during the daytime, they'll just blare music over their speakers sometimes, and you just cannot get away from it.
Like when families are out on the skating rink enjoying some family time.
But also, all the events they host, they don't have adequate parking, so the parking spills over into all the other neighborhoods. And so anytime you're trying to come and go from any of those apartments, you have people in the street not wearing vests or anything, just like stopping cars, waving cars, and you're like, "Who are you? Do you have the authority to stop me in the middle of the street right now?" Oh yeah. Constantly. And it's just a really gross part of town. And so I'll be moving out of there because
you're so close to a Dairy Queen.
I know, but it's not worth it. And that Dairy Queen actually ran out of ice cream recently on a hot day.
On a hot day.
I was in line and they said, "Hey, just we ran out of ice cream." And I said,
"What else do you have?"
I said, "You're Dairy Queen." And they're like, "Yeah, we know." I was like, "All right." And I reversed out of it, because the only way I could go out.
Someone come out with a Sharpie and like cross out cool treats, and they're like, "Only hot eats."
That's
only hot
what
eats.
They did. So the one big thing I like about my apartment is it's right next to a really great veterinary clinic. So that's where my cats go. But I mean, I can get to. There's a couple of vets in town I can get to anywhere. So I'm moving to North Fargo here pretty soon, and I'm looking forward to not being in West Fargo
It's
anymore.
been a long time since you've lived in North Fargo.
Yeah. When? Oh goodness, that's true.
Probably that place you had that was just off Broadway, right? Would be the last time you were
That
in
was
North
the last
Fargo?
time I had my own place because I've crashed with my dad from time to time when he was living
I was
in North
only ever
Fargo.
invited over to that place when you moved in and moved out and needed help. I was never invited over socially.
No
to
one was ever invited
come
over
and
socially.
enjoy like a delicious brisket sandwich.
Yeah, you've seen my apartments. I don't really entertain guests at those places.
But I just throwing that out there.
Well, we'll make sure to correct that.
And like even your current place, like at least I got to go feed your cats, and so I got to see a little bit of it, and I got to look at your view.
It's just it's the life I lead right now, JJ. I'm working on getting better. I will get better. I tell you, I will get better.
Okay. I mean, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to just say like, "Hey, listen, I'm having some Cheez-Its. You want to come over and have some I have a handful of Cheez-Its?"
Cheez-Its have been my jam lately. Cheez-Its have been the thing at night that makes me feel good. If I've had a bad day, I'm like, "Oh, thank God, I got that family-sized box of Cheez-Its waiting for me at home."
Have you tried any of the other flavors of Cheez-Its?
I have, but I am a purist when it comes to I want that original flavor. I don't like the white cheddar ones, which I know is a sin in the eyes of a lot of people, but in the eyes of a lot of other people that's you don't touch those things. They're not good.
I like the Jack cheddar ones, I think. Is that what it is? Like the cheddar Jack?
Yeah, they're fine. They're kind of spicy a little bit. Yeah, they're fine.
Cheez-Its, one of the most brilliant corporations ever, because you know what Cheez-Its did that is genius?
I don't.
They sold us the stuff that they normally throw away.
Really?
Yeah. So one of the Cheez-Its brands that you can get like 6 different flavor varieties. One is called Extra Toasty. And they're the Cheez-Its that they burned in the process.
Mad respect.
And so they're like, you know what? Rather than throw these away, pop it in a
They
box.
noticed that Carl kept eating them, and he was like, "Well, Carl seems to like them.
I like them extra toasty." Bing. They're serving you their garbage, and you're buying it. You're all a bunch of money mouths.
It just always tastes good to me. They just always taste good. That Cheez-Its always hit the spot. Like Cheez-Its are what if I'm like on an airplane and I need to bring a snack on board, it's going to be Cheez-Its more than likely.
Here's another complaint about corporate America, specifically in the snack area. Okay. Taking a cue from the candy companies who said, "Listen, let's put out something and then like we won't intend on keeping this product forever, but we'll keep it for a year, 2, a couple cycles. We'll do it like that." So, for example, Reese's comes to mind, right? So, my favorite thing in 3rd grade was Reese's made a peanut butter cup that had an Oreo cookie bottom. No Oreo filling or anything, but the bottom part of the Reese's cup was an Oreo cookie like wafer, and it was surrounded by chocolate still. It was out of this world. It was amazing. It was so good that like I can taste it in my mouth right now. I can see 3rd grade JJ eating these peanut butter cups by himself in the basement on the eating rug that I had so that I wouldn't stain the carpet, and playing A Link to the Past.
Reese's peanut butter cups are my Cheez-Its for candy, for sure.
So
That's the thing I always go for.
Okay, so here's the problem. You've got original Reese's peanut butter cups, But they have decided to just go crazy with their R&D. You've got some that have marshmallow in it, and some that are this, and some that are this, and some that are this. And I'm not even talking about like the shapes for different celebrations. I'm talking about the fact that they change the recipe. So it's like all peanut butter. It's a peanut butter coating.
Oh, right.
But they don't turn it into, I guess, canon would be what I would call it. They are temporary.
Oh, right.
Like things that like you try them and you're like, this is really good. I love this. And they're like, yeah, 2 years later, sorry, gone.
Yeah, I pretty much stick with original Reese's peanut butter cups or dark chocolate ones because I'm a huge dark chocolate fan.
See, even dark chocolate, I feel like you're on borrowed time. It's not going to
Well,
stick around forever.
Of course, but none of us are going to stick around. You know, life is ephemeral, JJ. We should enjoy it while it lasts.
Right, and so I don't want to have to enjoy it by going to store to store to store and be like, do you have any more dark chocolate Reese's?
I want to know this is forever.
Yeah. So the candy companies have been doing that for a while, right? Like where Snickers, they're like, it's not peanuts, it's almonds.
Mm-hmm.
But then those disappear. So the snack companies are saying like, you know what? We should follow the candy companies. And so now it seems like, you know, potato chips are one of those things where they come up with all these different flavors all the time.
Yeah.
They're always trying to throw you for a loop. I saw a Funyuns flavored Lay's potato chip the other day, and I was like, why not just get Funyuns?
And this obviously I'm going to show my ignorance here because I'm not in corporate America. And
Oh,
I've never
please.
been one, but you know, potato chips sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, Lay's, they're doing fine, right? They're going to be doing great. So I got to assume that all these testing ones, that's really just for the bonus money, right? That's just for like, we're already going to make this $1 billion from just selling fried potato chips, no matter what we put out. Just the originals is going to do it. So now it's just like, well, when you're already making like $1 million or $1 billion or whatever it is they make, then it's like, well, let's make more, I guess. So let's just try this, and then that's for John's bonus. That's for Sally's bonus.
So if I'm in corporate America, this is what I think they figured out from consumers. If John Q. Public is walking down the aisle and he knows he's going to get his favorite Lay's potato chips because he likes the perfect amount of salt and grease on those. He doesn't like the ripples because he's not that fancy. He just wants a good old fashioned Lay's so that when he's done with his doldrum job and he comes home and the kids are complaining and the wife is moaning about something, he can go down to the basement, lock himself in that little room that he's got and eat himself some delicious Lay's. And you know what? They only get better with his salty tears. So he already knows he's picking up that big yellow bag of Lay's, but he sees Lay's now with a hint of lime, and he looks at it and he goes, I enjoy lime. I enjoy all sorts. Key lime pie, lime in my gin and tonic that I use to forget about all the things that happened to me in my childhood. There's a lot of reasons you'd like lime. But what John says is because I can't buy the one with the lime only, because what if I don't like it?
Right.
And now I'm fucked.
You're going to go with Old Faithful no matter what, but you might bring something else.
So you're buying 2 bags of chips at this point, right? Two bags of chips.
No question that potato chips have cornered the depression market. Absolutely. That's right in there. No question.
It used to be ice cream.
Yeah.
But you can't take ice cream with you, like anywhere you want.
Let's like sign up with like a white label brand and just name it Depression.
And you know what? You only need to license one piece of music, and it's all by myself. Don't wanna be all by myself at your local grocers.
Man, that'd be kind of fun to do it like.
And call it Alone.
Yeah,
that's the name of your brand, Alone.
Do you think there's got to be like a white label brand that'll be like, hey, listen, if you want to have specially branded chips just for your event, we'll make a run of them for you. So like if you're like a local theater company and you're like, these are, depression chips because it's in line with this play we're doing and we're going to be selling them out and then mark up a premium. I wonder if that's the thing.
Yeah.
We should have, okay. If JJ Meets World was going to be one, like if we were going to sign up with a white label brand, JJ Meets World brand, whatever, what's it got to be? Is it chips? Is it salsa? Is it cheese? Is it chocolate? What do you think that is?
That's a good question. I mean, if I'm gonna really say it, I think it's orange Danish rolls.
Okay.
Yeah, orange Danish rolls are my childhood jam.
Okay.
And Millsberry makes a great one. With their Millsberry Mo' Boy. And so it's great because they're just these cinnamon Danish rolls, and you put them in the oven, and then it comes with like an orange frosting that you put over the top.
Okay.
So I've been eating them since I was a little kid, and this is something specific in my household. I like them par-baked. Have you ever heard the term par-bake?
Partially baked? Is that what that means?
That's what it means. Partially baked.
I was able to parse it out, but
so you can go to like Muane's House of Pizza and go there and ask for like 4 par-baked pizzas. And what they do is they make the pizza, they pop it in the oven enough so that the crust is essentially done, but not like it's still doughy on the inside, but it's crusted on the outside. And then the flavors, the cheese is melted and cooked and stuff like that. And then they'll box it up for you. You can put it in the freezer and then cook it at your convenience. So a lot of people take it to the lake, for example. And Marbake cookies are also really popular, where essentially it's like a cookie and all you have to do is put it into an oven for like 2 minutes.
I like how you're adding the M to Parbake.
Yeah, Marbake. Marbake mookies are very popular with many meeple.
Today on May Meets Morld.
So par-bake. So I par-bake these things, but it's because I kind of like them doughy inside.
Okay.
I don't like them just completely done and flaky. I kind of like that little bit of doughiness to it. Now, here's what I do. I will make a hole. These come in a cylinder in the fridge section.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make the whole thing. I will frost them all. I let them sit on the plate for about 5 minutes so that the frosting is not become like a shell on the top, but it's not gooey anymore.
Got it.
And I will eat the entire plate in one sitting
by
myself. And so if I'm with myself. Yeah, so like let's say you were coming over, I'd have to make 2 tubes.
Okay. Interesting.
Because I know I can eat an entire one by myself.
Gone are the days where I can eat a whole pizza.
Really?
By myself, yeah. Gone are the days. I mean, they should have been gone a long time ago, but I would just kind of force myself through it. But
so like if you make yourself a frozen pizza, you're not going to be able to finish the whole thing?
I'm eating half of it, and I'm putting the other half in the fridge and having it the next day.
How are you reheating your pizza?
I typically will use my toaster oven.
Good move. Excellent move.
Yeah, don't nuke it. Don't use the mic. It just gets all rubbery and stuff. Or I'll put turn the broiler on in the oven and just cook it in there for like 5 minutes. Basically, I just look for when the cheese starts to bubble. I'm like, all right, that should be good enough, and that's typically good enough.
Now, you're the type of a man who fancies up his frozen pizza, right?
I add pepperonis because I just think it's a crime how little pepperoni typically comes on a frozen pizza. And I'm currently in between frozen pizza loyalties ever since Pizza Corner changed their whole, since they changed and became something different.
Now, I've talked to the actual people at like Pizza Corner corporate,
right,
which is, is out of Monticello now. And they told me that this is exactly the same.
Right.
The only difference is we don't shrink wrap the pizza.
Right. It does taste similar to me. Like I can't taste a super huge difference, but for me, it's not just the taste of the pizza, it's the whole aesthetic of it. I miss the old one. It just doesn't create the same feeling for me. I have a nostalgia for the old packaging and for all that other stuff. So I'm just not quite there yet, but I would totally buy that they have not changed the ingredients at all.
Have you seen that meme where it says my fall plans and it's the old Pizza Corner pizza and it's the Delta variant and it's the new one?
Yeah. Well,
People went ballistic over that. Talk about corporate America.
Yeah.
Like when they changed the logo, people went ballistic. During my day job, one of my things was I did a remote for Pizza Corner Pizza. And it was like, hey, it's the same great taste, new label. And people came up to the grocery store and they were pissed. And they're like, this is not the same. Right. You're a liar.
Yeah.
You're a liar. And our giveaway at this place was not only could you get like a coupon to like buy one, get one free for frozen pizza and stuff like that, but they gave away the Cadillac of pizza cutters. It was a pizza cutter that came in a box lined with velvet.
Ooh.
It was ultra sharp and like the wheel on itself was nice and big so that you could like really get into deeper crusts if you wanted. It had a weighted handle so that there was some like, so you're not having to push down completely. It told you exactly the angle. Like there's a little bubble things to like tell you the angle you should be cutting your pizza at. I looked at this thing. I was like, how much did this cost? And he's like, it's $45.
I want one of those pizza cutters though that's a single blade.
Yeah.
That's not a rolling one.
Because, like a rock cutter.
Right, because the rolling ones, that's what I have at home is a rolling one, but I always feel like there's got to be something that's just not getting washed on the inside there. Even though I try to get in there and wash it and it goes through the dishwasher, I just feel like There's a little crevice in there that might just be hiding some bacteria, but with the single blade, you can see it. And also, I think when you're rolling along the pizza, that is how you accidentally get a divot line or something, because the pizza is uneven and it's rolling with it, versus if you were just sort of hacking it with what do you call a stone cutter?
Yeah.
I think those are...
It's a rock, like
rock cutter,
rocking,
there we
like
go.
a rocking horse.
So when you cut pizza, do you prefer to cut it when it's hot and fresh out the oven, or do you let it sit for a bit and let things congeal before cutting it?
I let it sit because I add cheese to every frozen pizza I have. And so I feel like I need to let that cheese coagulate a little bit.
What kind of cheese you putting on it?
So I'm putting on some mozzarella cheese normally, but now here's the thing. Here's where I'm going to be real bougie. I buy the blocks and I will shred the cheese myself.
Well, you gotta, because the shredded ones have that
Like
powder.
sawdust
It's
on
that
it.
powder that's in it that makes it not stick together, and
Yeah.
then it doesn't melt as nice.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Also, not all mozzarella cheeses are the same.
No.
Let me give a personal pitch here to Cassetta's Italian Market in St. Paul.
Okay.
Oh my God. As a dude who loves pepperoni, next time you find yourself in the cities, so they've got, it's an Italian grocery store, and then they've got like a pizza place, and then like a fine dining, and then a patisserie as well. So the best desserts you've ever seen. But it is an old Italian market, and a lot of stuff comes directly from Italy. Their meat market is amazing. I buy sticks of pepperoni every time I go down there, and I'll get like 10 sticks and freeze 8 of them, gnaw on 2, thaw them out. There you go. But their cheeses are out of this world. Their meat selection is out of this world. I mean, it is amazing. You can get, do you know what a burrata is? You ever had burrata?
Yep.
So like their burrata, better than anything I've tasted around here locally.
Really?
Cassetta's Market in St. Paul.
Okay.
It is worth the
Yeah.
trip.
Not mussettas, cassettas.
Cassetta's. So much so that the first time Jill and I went anywhere after COVID hit, I was officiating a wedding in September of 2020. And we stayed in Albertville at a hotel. And I said, we got to drive to Cassetta's Market before we go back. So we're talking about a drive of like another hour in the opposite direction of our home. And we waited outside there until they opened up. And it was like the third day that they had been open since they had shut down originally. And when I walked in there, they're like, hey, bread's fresh, everything, do you do whatever you want? And we must have spent like $200.
Nice.
And I just loaded up on all these things that I love.
And did you convert her to, like, was she like, oh, this is
The first time I took her there, she knew she fell in love with it.
awesome.
And it's
Awesome.
amazing. And like they've got like 9 different types of olives that are stuffed with different stuff that they've got there.
Right.
Like so blue cheese stuffed olives, garlic stuffed olives.
If you're going to go to the Twin Cities, don't go to IKEA. Go to Cassetta's.
Go to Cassetta's. Cassetta's. It's right by the Excel Energy Center too.
By the Excel Energy Center.
So good.
So good. It's
So
Cassetta's, and it's not IKEA.
And you know what? Every time I go in there, and they also like they dress the part, right? They look like they're little tiny Italian like side street grocers, and so they wear little hats and
So they got they got a butcher and everything.
yeah,
and
white apron. Everyone wears white aprons.
do you think that ever becomes your third act still?
being a butcher?
Yeah.
I think so. Although I will say we are so lucky in this town. We've got people who do
Yeah.
great jobs.
Oh yeah. We have no shortage of amazing food in the Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo, Dilworth community.
That being said, let me tell you about a fly-by-night operation.
Is it called the sizzling skillet? Or
Nope. The sizzling skillet.
The sizzling skillet. The saute skillet.
And I worked on a bunch of other things too. I was like the roasting pot, and I was like, nope, the sizzling, the sauteing skillet. So there's a new butcher shop that opened up in Dilworth that's amazing. And what's cool is I think they went into other butcher shops and said, what are they not offering that we could? So, for example, Swiss steak, one of my favorite meals. We only have it like once or twice a year. It's very tomato heavy, so it's perfect for this time of year.
Okay.
But you take traditionally like an eye of round steak, and then you tenderize it. So if you've ever seen the tenderizer that people use, so you tenderize that steak before you make it, and then it's essentially like boiled in this tomatoey sauce, and you serve it over mashed potatoes. You would love it.
That
It's
sounds
right up your alley.
amazing.
And so, one thing I hate is I hate having to tenderize the meat because no matter what, it freaks my dogs out a little bit. There's always a little bit of splatter.
Sounds like someone's fucking.
They've got pre-tenderized Swiss steak meat over there.
Wow.
They decided
Okay.
like, yep, we'll just run it through our machines here and pre-tenderize it so you can take it home. That's great. That's awesome. Now let me tell you about this fly-by-night operation. So there is a semi-truck in one of the hotel parking lots in town selling meat out of the back of their truck. And not just for one day. They've been here for like a week. And their deal is 20 ribeye steaks for $40. Less than $2 a steak. Now here's the problem. There must be some kind of regulatory outfit out there that will tell you that a 3-ounce piece of meat is not a ribeye steak.
Okay.
And like when you go there to be like, I'd like your 20, ribeyes for $40, and they're like, here you go. And you look at them like, this is BS. And they're like, no, these are for fajitas or Philly cheesesteak sandwiches.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, no, that you can't call that a steak, right? Just in the same way that like the thing that you slice up and serve well done on French dip is not prime rib.
Right.
And I was taken once by a meat operation that drove a freezer truck from door to door.
I don't want to buy meat out of a vehicle. I just don't, unless it's a food truck. Like unless it's like, oh, they're making it right there.
Right. But when Harold Hill knocks on your door and like, say there, friend, you look like a man who knows his quality meat. I'd like to show you this T-bone.
Last time I saw people selling meat out of a car, it was in Trailer Park Boys. Because they were stealing meat and then selling it out of Ricky's car.
Down by...
they must have stolen that meat truck, and they're like, let's just offload this meat truck.
Right, exactly. That's what I think. That happened in the show Shameless, too. Like, so the meat truck breaks down, and so the whole neighborhood just, like, fleeces the thing, just everything. And they're like, do we have any bone saws? But I will also say this, too. Okay, so... That's a fly-by-night operation. One of my favorite restaurants in the world is the Lowry's brand restaurants. Lowry's, the steakhouse. You might have their seasoning salt at home.
Yeah.
So they specialize in a prime rib experience. And so what it is they cook these prime ribs, but they have Yorkshire pudding. They have a thing called a spinning salad where they've got a big metal bowl that's set into ice.
Nice.
And they build the salad while they spin the bowl and they pour the dressing on. The waitresses are dressed like kind of like Victorian era maids, and they call themselves Mrs. So like I'm Mrs. Hughes, I'm Mrs. Davenport.
Gotcha.
And it's like eating in another world, and it's so good, and everything's salty, and it's just like, oh, I'm dreaming. My mouth is watering thinking about it right now. I've taken friends to it, like when we're in Chicago, because there's one in Chicago, I think there's one in Vegas. Well, my understanding is the one in Chicago closed down during COVID.
Okay.
And they are not intending to reopen the restaurant. But what they did do is they said, we will still offer our experience. You can pick it up, or we can mail you essentially the whole meal frozen. So since Jill doesn't listen to this, I can say it out loud. I spent $400 on a Lowry's at-home meal for 4 people. So they send you like a 7-pound prime rib, and they send you the mashed potatoes, the gravy. Oh, and they're great. Oh, their gravy it's such a dark, rich color. It's made with all the drippings from the prime rib.
Nice.
There's like a cream spinach. There's creamed corn. They send you hot fudge for like this special hot fudge dessert.
Nice.
They send you the Yorkshire pudding, a bottle of their salad dressing, and then you also get something. So Lowry seasoning salt you can buy everywhere, but they also have a pepper. And previously, you could only get this pepper at the restaurant. That was the only place you could buy it. And so this is sitting in my freezer right now, and I intend on making it over Labor Day weekend. Nice. And I'm very excited about it. And that's one thing where, lemons into lemonade, you know?
I really want to go back to Vegas with you at some point, just so that I can eat the steak with you and see if you think it's as good as I did. I've talked about it on the podcast before at Steakhouse, the peppercorn fillet. I mean, just I dream about that steak still to this day.
If you're interested in sponsoring a trip, Tucker and I will record a bunch of stuff. We'll do it live.
Just take an Allegiant flight. Be nice. We'll take a Allegiant flight, and it'll be nice and cheap.
Yep, there you go.
I'm glad I covered there.
We'll stay at the Mexcalibur for about 20 minutes before we're like, I'll pony up the dough for a real hotel.
Yes, because otherwise it's going to be on Fremont Street.
But if your company or your organization can sponsor us to go, we'll mention you a whole bunch. We won't even put an M before your company's name. Or we will trash talk your competitors.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. Like, Burger King is such dog shit.
Here's a weird thing. So in advertising during like campaigns, there's attack ads, right?
Yeah.
So campaign A will make an attack ad against campaign B. Why aren't we seeing more of that in the world of advertising for products?
I'm going to make an assumption that it's that negative ads turn people off. But I remember back when Hardee's got into fried chicken.
Oh yeah, I
and
remember
wanted to
that
compete
time.
with KFC. And my mom tells this to me to this day, that how upset I would get at Hardee's commercials because they would just be taking big dumps on KFC the whole time. And she was like, you were so upset that they were being unfair. And you're like, it's just fried chicken. Why can't everyone just sell fried chicken? So yeah, like even me as like a little kid was reacting negatively and didn't want to go to Hardee's because I didn't like how negatively they were talking about KFC. So I think it's still, it'll still be out there in some ways, but it's more of like, nods to the distinguished competition that are creative. Like one of my absolute favorite Pepsi ads is, it looks like it's from a security camera, and it's a Coke delivery guy refilling the Coke case at like a gas station. And so he's finished up, and then you see him look over at the Pepsi, and he kind of is like looking around and make sure no one's looking. And he reaches to grab, and he takes one can of Pepsi out, and then the whole thing collapses out with thousands and thousands and thousands of cans of Pepsi. And it's just this guy standing there like watching in his Coke delivery uniform and everyone's looking at him, and then he just puts the can back and walks away, right? That was a great variation on that idea where you're taking a swipe at the competition, but you're doing it in a creative and fun way.
Sure.
You're not having to say that they suck. You're just making a joke about one of their people preferring your soda, right? I also love how the Can You Hear Me Now guy had to switch teams eventually.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have to, but they were like, what a brilliant coup to get that guy. Was Verizon at first?
Verizon, and then like when the Verizon decided to quit that ad campaign,
yeah,
like one of the competitors is like, okay, well we'll
do it.
T-Mobile will take
we'll
them.
do it. That's what it was. That's brilliant.
It's genius.
It's absolutely brilliant.
Here's a thought. So that same time frame when Hardee's decided, like, listen, it's Frisco burgers, curly fries, fried chicken. We're also going to do soup. They had like 4 soups every day.
Right.
And I remember going to a Hardee's location right next to where I work now. That lot is now a CVS. I mean, an MVS. And
we're not talking shit about CVS.
Oh, not yet.
Not
I
yet.
don't know, maybe. Band-Aids. So, but I remember going there, and my dad was confused because my mom was like, well, I'll have, like a bowl of chicken noodle soup, and I was fried chicken, and Chrissy was having like a chicken sandwich. And he's like, where are we? What place is this? Why don't we just go to a restaurant?
You guys got tacos?
So, to me, Subway is really struggling right now.
They should be.
They're trying to figure out a way to say, like, listen, we're still relevant. And you know what's the one thing that Subway's never tried to like do that they could do easily is soup.
They do
Soup and sandwich. Have you ever tried the soup there?
I never try the soup anywhere because I'm not interested in soup.
You don't like soup?
I like soup at home with my grilled cheese.
What are you going to do when you lose everything?
Eat soup at home, but I'm not going to go out and pay someone for soup. Could you please warm up some salt water for me? Thank you very much.
Sometimes it's better than other places. And then the bread that they serve it with.
Unless it's like a tomato bisque. Like a tomato bisque, I would.
Okay, so it's got, okay, Rockefeller. Like, it's got to be bisque.
It's got to be bisque.
Okay, I see what it is.
Never had a lobster bisque.
Oh, they're good.
I don't think I've ever had lobster.
The International Hotel in Winnipeg has the best seafood bisque of anywhere I've ever tried on the planet.
Okay.
I'll get it by the bowlful.
Okay.
About 3 years into dating,
bowlful.
Jill and I, we went to Winnipeg to go see the Trailer Park Boys movie. It's funny because when we went to the border, getting into Canada, they're like, okay, what did you come to Canada for, eh? And we're like, we're here to see the Trailer Park Boys movie. And they're like, really, you are? And we're like, yeah, we are. And they're like, well, come on in. And it felt like the guy in The Wizard of Oz who's like, that's a horse of a different color. So we get into Canada and we go to this place, and the gentleman who is like our valet, because it's in downtown Winnipeg, so it's not like there's places to park. We get to the hotel, they're gonna valet, and he's like, all right. And then he's like, all right, and you're and I'm like, oh, it's under Gordon. He goes, all right, Mr. and Mrs. Gordon, sounds good. Now, Jill and I had not even talked about getting married
You were
at that point.
3 years in your relationship, so you were only on like the first 16th of your relationship.
Right,
basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
So Jill goes gaga for this and thinks this is just the most adorable thing ever, that Mr. and Mrs. Gordon. And she's like, well, maybe that could be the way it is one day. And so then we are walking down the street that night on our way to dinner, and I hear, Mr. and Mrs. Gordon. And it's this dude who parked our car, and he's out drinking with his friends. He's like, hey, you guys, what's up? And he's
Was he like, you want to make some money?
well, so because when he had said Mr. and Mrs. Gordon, he goes, and you guys have been here a bunch of times, right? And even though we hadn't, I said, yeah, absolutely. He goes, oh, good, because sometimes I think I recognize someone, and then they make me feel bad. And so I was like, good, I'm glad I could keep this guy, in good spirits.
Yeah.
And so that way, later that night, when he was schmammered with his friends, and they were going to some country music concert, and I don't remember what it was that was in town, because I don't know country music. But he was telling us, he's like, yeah, we're going to be partying at such and such, place, and you should come over, and my friend Timmy's having a party tonight. And I was like, are we going to go to some random Winnipeg party? Are we going to really do it up? But we didn't.
Yeah.
Now, on the contrary, when we were coming back in the United States and we told them we drove all the way to Winnipeg for a movie, they're like, pull your car over, you're being searched.
Yeah, you were probably smoking doobs and
right,
other stuff.
And he clearly thought okay, so this is the most. And are we trafficking drugs from Winnipeg to to North America?
Unless it's
to
prescription.
United States?
Yeah.
I mean, what was he think he's going to find? I would think that we'd be bringing much worse stuff from the United States into Canada than Canada into the United States. Now, that being said, they've changed their drug laws up there. And so, you can have recreational marijuana. Right. And so maybe, maybe things have changed a little bit.
It might just depend, too, on where at the border you're crossing. Like if it's what state. Can you cross into any of those border states in the U.S., or is it just you can North Dakota, Montana, Minnesota?
I think any state that shares a border with Canada has a crossing at some point.
I would figure it would, yeah. So I wonder then, too, if it's are any of those states legal states? I'm trying to think. Oregon?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Montana is now.
Yeah. So I wonder if you're going into a legal state, they're like, it's fine. But if there's an agreement not to do it, like going to North Dakota.
I believe you're not allowed to take product from one country into another country.
At all.
Yeah. So you'd have to leave your Canadian weed and then buy U.S. weed when you get here.
Got it. What's the exchange on weed to weed? I don't even know.
Good question.
Don't even know.
That's a good question. Also, here's $1 million idea. If you have any decision making at an airport, every airport should have a couple of things now. One is a kiosk for the United States Postal Service, because when you find out that your bag weighs a pound over what it is, and listen, I actually don't need this hair dryer, right? But there's nothing else you can do with it. You're already there. You're trying to check in your bag. You should be able to go over to a kiosk and mail this thing back to yourself. Right. I remember a situation when I was leaving Chicago once where I was super late for a flight, so we were going to have to carry on. I had just bought a new bottle of cologne. They're like, nope, it's over 3 ounces. It was 4.2 ounces. They're like, you're going to have to throw it away. And so I threw it into this garbage, and I was being a pill. And so I threw it into the garbage as hard as I could, hoping it would break so it would reek in that area. Luckily, it didn't, because that would be horrific for a lot of people during the day.
Right.
But I remember thinking, if there was a U.S. Postal Service kiosk, I could give them business. Right. A struggling entity, I could give them business, and they'd have a purpose there. Right. The other thing I always think of is there should always be a place that sells little tiny sewing patch kits, stuff like that. So if you rip your bag or in any way, shape, or form, you can mend it temporarily while you're there. Or duct tape.
I'm trying to remember the last time I flew. It's been a while now. I can't remember the last time I flew. Shoot, I want to travel.
I remember the last time I had the flu.
Oh, look at you.
I almost died.
Why?
Because I got so dehydrated. Jesus. I honestly thought I was gonna die.
When was this?
This was in 2012.
Goodness.
And I realized halfway through this that I had never had the flu before. It was the type of thing, 5 blankets, and I'm shivering. Jill stayed up all night watching me, and my could barely breathe at times. Weird. I wasn't able to eat anything. I couldn't concentrate, and so I was sleeping, but I was awake, and it was awful.
Weird.
Yeah. I thought I was going to die.
What a note to end this episode on.
But I didn't die.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
I'm glad you didn't die.
Me too.
Yeah.
But if I had, wouldn't it be weird?
This podcast would be hard to do.
I was going to say, what if you totally lost it and you didn't think I died, but I did die in 2012. And so you're sitting here and you're recording this and in your mind, we're having a conversation, but really you say something and then it's just blank air. And then you go like, oh, JJ, you're right. What if you completely snapped, Tucker?
Maybe that's what this is. But hey, man, if I've completely snapped and somehow I've gotten through 252 episodes of being completely snapped, something's right. People are listening.
It reminds me, what's that guy who took the Garfield strip?
Yeah,
and then
Garfield without Garfield.
Garfield, yeah, where they take away all of the Garfield speech bubbles, and it's just John talking to his cat.
There's variations too where there's just not even Garfield. It's just John. Like he's
Really?
not even talking to anyone in the room.
Oh my god!
But those are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Because it changes the complete tenor of it to like this really sad, lonely, somewhat psychotic man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird how John's girlfriend looked just like him? Like they had the same bulgy eyes and.
John Davis is not a talented artist. Jim Davis.
But he loves
Mim Davis is not
Mim
a
Mavis.
Mim Mavis is not a talented artist.
Well, there you go. Hey, folks, I think this is going to button up this episode here. Don't let my opinion of the saute skillet keep you from it. Form your own opinion. But when you go in there, if you don't get a smile or a thank you from Pat, you should let him know that you are unsatisfied. By the way, I'm saying this. I just finished an HBO series called The White Lotus, which is about a really fancy resort in Hawaii, and it's about the haves and have-nots, right? So these ultra-wealthy people who are vacationing there, who are making mountains out of molehills with these microaggressions, and then the people who work there who are just trying to get through it. The dude who plays the manager in this series is one of the funniest actors I've ever seen in my life, and the way he can kind of turn on this like shit-eating grin smile, it is phenomenal. Also, it is easily one of the most disturbing shows I've ever seen. You see some stuff that you do not normally see in television when you've got no kids in the room, I'm telling you.
Got it.
It's not even like weird, like adult stuff. Like it's stuff that I literally guarantee you've never seen this on television. There was some person in a CGI warehouse like business where they said, you're going to have to CGI this. And he's like, I can't tell my parents. I can't tell my friends. I can't believe I went to college for this. Enjoy. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. It's the frying pan. Let's be very specific. The frying pan on Main Avenue, and not frying, ing, FRY apostrophe N PAN. Frying pan. I thought it was fry apostrophe N pan. Hold on. This is probably one of our longest little stingers at the end. Let's confirm this. Hold on. Fry. Oh, it is FRYN apostrophe pan. Thank you.